So in Chapter 17, we're going to be looking at the digestive system and the structures and the function of the structures that are involved in the digestive system. So let's get started. When we talk about the digestive system, the anatomical structures are the alimentary canal and the accessory organs of the digestive tract. The alimentary canal itself is the actual tube through which food passes as we eat, then digest, then compact and prep the waste, the fecal material, for being passed out of the body. And so the digestive system alimentary canal begins at the mouth. Food passes then when we swallow down into the pharynx. And then as part of the process of getting it to the stomach, it has to pass through the esophagus. Food lands in the stomach where we begin the chemical digestion of proteins. I forgot to mention, back at the mouth is where we begin the mechanical digestion of food as we bite and chew and grind the food that we eat. And as we mix with the saliva in the mouth, we also begin the chemical digestion of carbohydrates. So mouth is where we start chemical digestion as we dissolve and break apart and break down carbohydrates. When the food makes it into the stomach, then we initiate the digestion, the chemical digestion of proteins. And we also do a lot more mechanical digestion in the stomach as the food is rubbed between the rough ridges, the rugae of the stomach. Then once food is completely acidified and has had a chance to do a lot of protein digestion, then we start squeezing small portions of food into the small intestine. In the first 10 to 12 inches of the small intestine, it's called the duodenum, we see the bulk of chemical digestion occurring using all of the secretions that are pumped in from the pancreas. Then in the next stretch of the small intestines, the jejunum, that's where we see the bulk of absorption, and then food moves on into the ileum of the small intestine. And then we pass through a sphincter valve and what is now waste, because we've done all our absorption by the time that the food passes out of the small intestine, and we've done all our absorption of nutrients. And the large intestine's role is to compact the feces, to extract water from it. So we do absorb a lot of water. We also absorb with that water some vitamins that are produced by the bacteria of the large intestine. And then waste material can be stored temporarily at the rectum, and then when it is time to pass feces, then the sphincter muscles of the anus release, and food is pushed out, or the waste material is pushed out of the body. So that's the alimentary canal, all of the structures through which the food passes. There are also accessory organs associated with the alimentary canal, and these are all the organs that assist in both mechanical and chemical digestion. With mechanical digestion, this is where we're just breaking food into small bits without changing the chemical structure. Whereas chemical digestion breaks large polymer foods into individual nutrient molecules. So we take proteins and we break them into amino acids. Carbohydrates, they get broken into monosaccharides. And lipids, they get broken into fatty acids. and glycerol, if it's a dietary lipid. Glycerol. It's a C right there. Glycerol. So those are the primary nutrients that get broken down as part of chemical digestion. And so the organs that assist with this process are the salivary glands, located at the mouth. They secrete fluid to help moisten and bind food together, and to also begin the chemical digestion of carbohydrates into di and monosaccharides. The teeth are busy chopping, cutting, grinding food into smaller bits. That's mechanical digestion. The tongue, which helps to manipulate the food in the mouth and squeeze it toward the back of the throat, is also involved, and it tastes and senses the characteristics of the food. The gallbladder, which it stores up bile, and the liver. I missed that, but the liver is a very important organ with lots of different functions, including the production of bile, as well as metabolic regulation of the entire body. And then last of all, the pancreas, which produces lots of endocrine secretions. Glucagon and insulin are two of those secretions. And then a whole lot of exocrine secretions as well. Things like pancreatic lipase or pancreatic amylase. So digestive enzymes, as well as the hormones insulin and glucagon, are all produced by the pancreas. So what are the functions of the digestive system? Well, first, there's ingestion of food. That's bringing the food into the mouth. Mechanical digestion, where we break food into smaller pieces without changing its chemical structure. So the tongue, the teeth, and the motions of the alimentary canal are all involved in mechanical digestion. Chemical digestion, which is where we take large macronutrients and break them into smaller organic subunits, like amino acids, monosaccharides, fatty acids, and glycerol. Secretion, because we produce a lot of exocrine secretions that moisten, that break down, that change the pH of all the foods, and those are produced by a number of different accessory organs and alimentary canal organs. We'll be talking a lot about secretion later on. Propulsion, that's the movement of food and wastes along the alimentary canal. So we'll talk about mixing movements, as well as the propulsion movements. Because we can mix back and forth, and then also move food on through the structures of the alimentary canal. Absorption, that's the movement of all the digested stuff and water and vitamins from the lumen, or from the openings inside the alimentary canal. So from, say, the interior of the small intestine into the blood and the lymph. So if this is a look down the pipe of the small intestine, this area here, the open space inside, is the lumen of the small intestine. And so that's where we find the digestive materials. But out around the small intestine, we've got lots of capillary networks and lymphatic networks that help to carry the food, the absorbed food, away from the alimentary canal. And so we have lots and lots of absorption that happens, especially at the small intestine, but some at the large intestine as well. And then finally, when we've gotten everything that we can from the food, then we can pass it on out of the body through the processes of defecation. So these are all the topics that we're going to be trying to get at over the course of this chapter. We'll begin by looking at the structure of the digestive wall tract itself. And it's built of 4 layers of tissue. There's the innermost layer, that's the mucosa. So we've got the mucosal layers. It's a mucous membrane. Surrounding the mucosa, we have the submucosa. Then there's a very strong, thick muscular layer of both circular muscle and of muscle that runs the length of the tube as well. So we've got circular and longitudinal muscles here in the muscular layer. And then finally, covering the whole thing is a very fine, thin sheet of serosa. These are the serous membranes that surround the exterior of the digestive tract in the abdominopelvic cavity. So all layers, or all segments of the alimentary canal have these 3 layers, but only the parts that are in the abdominopelvic cavity have the serosa. And the serosa is the same thing as the visceral peritoneum. So it is the layer that covers over all of the organs of the abdominopelvic cavity. So let's look first at the mucosa. The mucosa is the innermost lining of the digestive tract, and it's composed of an epithelial layer, and we find lots of glands sprinkled throughout that epithelial layer that secrete mucus and liquids and digestive enzymes and lots of other fluids. Now there's a little bit of connective tissue associated with the mucosa. It's termed the lamina propria, and it forms a basement membrane that really supports and strengthens that epithelial layer. And then there's a little bit of smooth muscle sprinkled along all of the mucosa of the digestive tract. Not the same muscle, the smooth muscle that's found in the muscular layer. This is just a sprinkling of smooth muscle cells so that we have some movement of the mucosa capable. The lining of the gastrointestinal tract is folded, and so this mucosal lining is folded up. That allows the digestive tract to stretch without ripping the mucosal layers. And when we make our way to the small intestine, this mucosal layer is highly folded. So we see these finger-like extensions into the lumen of the small intestine. Just let you imagine the rest of them. These finger-like extensions are the villi. So this is the villus here. So the plural, the singular for villi is villus. So here's a single villus of the mucosa, and what that does is create a lot more surface area inside of the or there at the mucosa inside the digestive tract of the small intestine, that allows for lots and lots of absorption to occur across the intestinal walls. Okay, so there is the mucosa. If we go now just external or superficial to the mucosa, there is the submucosa, and this is an area of loose connective tissue, and it carries blood vessels and lymph vessels and nerves. And if you want to kind of get a sense of the loose connective tissue associated with the submucosa, then take a little bite on the inside of your cheek, gently, and then pull on the outside of your cheek. And you can feel how the 2 layers of the outside and the inside of the cheek kind of slide past each other up to a little point. That is the loose connective tissue that is this, the submucosa of the digestive tract right there. That's allowing them to stretch apart from each other. And the loose connective tissue provides a pathway for blood vessels, for the lymphatic vessels, and for nerves to travel along. The muscular layer is a band of smooth muscle. It has two layers to it. The deepest layer is circular muscle. That means that the muscle fibers are arranged so that they wrap around the tract. And so when they constrict or contract, that's going to make the diameter of the alimentary canal, it's going to make it smaller. It's going to constrict the tube. So the tube becomes smaller. There's less volume inside the tube when this inner layer of circular fibers contracts. Just external to the circular muscle fibers is a layer of longitudinal fibers. And as they contract, they pull the tube shorter. And then when they relax, the tube can stretch back out to its normal length. So what we see is that alternating these contractions of the inner circular layer and the outermost muscular layer that is longitudinal, alternating these contractions can help to shove food down the pipe. And the smooth muscle, because it's smooth muscle, is under autonomic control. And so when the parasympathetic nervous system stimulates them, then we see contractions. That's parasympathetic, if you remember, is the rest and digest portion of the autonomic nervous system. So stimulation from the parasympathetic division is going to cause digestive movements to occur, while sympathetic stimulation will inhibit those contractions, so that when we're getting ready to fight, we don't have to worry about, I need to, go and poo. That's not what we're thinking about or worried about. All the digestive functions take a back seat to dealing with whatever the threat may be. Okay, so there's the muscular layer with its innermost circular muscle and the outermost longitudinal muscle. Then the last of the layers is the serosa, and again, this is also known as the visceral peritoneum, and it's the outermost layer of the alimentary canal organs. Covers all of the organs in the abdominopelvic cavity. So the stomach, the small and large intestines, the rectum, they are all covered by this layer of serosa, and it covers the accessory organs that are found in the abdominopelvic cavity as well. So the liver, the pancreas, all of them are covered by this layer of visceral peritoneum. And it is a serous membrane, meaning that it secretes fluid that helps to lubricate the movements of the organs in the abdominopelvic cavity. So as we bend over or stand back up again, we are able to just kind of, rather than pinching the tube shut, we can kind of push everything a little bit to the side so that we can, move easily with the fluids that lubricate all the movements of the organs in the abdominal cavity. All right, so that is it for this stretch of the lecture. So we've talked a lot about the organs and now the structure of the digestive tract wall. In the next one, we'll begin to look at some of the movements